Welcome to Construct Tech TV. What do hurricanes, zoos, and robots have in common? They're all a part of today's tech trends. This week's top 5 tech trends include security robots, disaster recovery, truck safety, talent management, and building automation at the zoo. So what do safety, a robot, and a job site all have in common? For the answer, let's look at an event in Brazil. A robot is patrolling the premises, making sure all 15,000 attendees are safe and secure. The company that makes this autonomous device even sees the RoboCop standing tall at a wall for border control, or perhaps even keeping a watchful eye on any campus, vacant lot, or property. Better yet, how about policing your construction job site? This particular robot can function on a road, off-road, in grass, gravel, or hazardous terrain. It won't be hindered by rain, snow, fog, or smoke. It has a 360-degree video surveillance system that can record, store, send, and stream video. Are you considering a robot to police your job site? Perhaps you should. Whether hurricanes hit in the south or in the path of tornadoes in the Midwest, natural disasters strike, and your company needs to be prepared. So how can you protect all of your data when disasters strike? eMazzanti Technologies has developed 6 tips to help you. So let's walk through them. First, develop operational continuity. Second, think about data and server backup. Third, off-site data and system replication is so very important. Fourth, cloud and hybrid cloud storage. Fifth, you need expertise in storage area network. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, recovery of file servers. Having the right data system protection in place might be your best defense to help you back up from a natural disaster faster. Are your drivers vulnerable on the road? A new report from Volvo Trucks says yes, but there's a catch. The report shows the number of serious accidents involving truck drivers is actually dropping. But the data shows 35% of pedestrians, cyclists, moped riders, and motorcyclists are suffering serious injuries or fatalities as a result of road accidents with trucks. And with increasing urbanization, there is a risk that these injuries will continue to rise. This is where education enters the equation. It's time to help your drivers take advantage of these safety systems in place, such as mirrors, sensors, and backup cameras. Perhaps one of the most important safety features is still the seatbelt. It's National Safety Month. Let's buckle up. It's time to better manage your talent. Too many construction companies are still using manual paper processes for recruiting. One construction company, however, found a better way. Leopardo Construction is using technology to hire, onboard, and develop the workforce. This comes as part of a 5-year strategic plan for growth. The Chicagoland-based company has saved more than 50% in total recruiting savings and has onboarded more than 100 employees. There are even plans to use this tool to grow its workforce in the future. Building automation is changing skyscrapers, retail stores, and office buildings, but it is also transforming animal habitats at the zoo. For example, the zoo in New England leverages security integration. Meanwhile, in Minnesota, the zoo has an HVAC control system for both the visitors and the animals. It's important to make sure those penguins have the right temperature control, right? But one of the most unique examples is in Omaha. The Henry Doorly Zoo has a campus-wide enterprise network. This exhibit has life support systems that include controls for the tropical rainforest, an indoor desert, a major aquarium, and an indoor penguin environment. Technicians from control services take advantage of the humidity outside to drive it into the indoor jungle, creating conditions similar to the rainforest. The zoo also uses controls to manage water quality. Buildings are generating more intelligence, and so too are the zoos. That's your tech update for today. Minor injuries and accidents, they happen all the time on the job site. I can tell you we don't really like that, right? But when things get serious, someone needs to be accountable. And a unique type of investigation must take place to determine what really happened and who is responsible. So to discuss all these details, I want you to welcome Greg Pestine, who is the civil engineer and construction expert at Robson Forensics. Greg, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Greg, let's talk about this. When we look at job sites and things that happen and there are accidents, what do you have to really do to start an investigation like that?
Well, in my work, I usually come on board several years later. But what really needs to happen is documentation. People need to photograph the scene and get witness statements and take measurements and so forth right at that time, because 3 years later, a lot of our memory is lost.
So do we find a lot of reoccurring kind of things that happen at an accident? Because you say a lot of memory things are lost. So are there reoccurring accidents and incidences that occur on the site?
Yes, there's people forget the conditions of the job at the time, the lighting level, the housekeeping level, the dimensions of whatever may have caused the injury.
So when you look at that, you're kind of taking, I guess, tracking the steps of an incident and kind of recording what people might not have remembered and trying to get them to kind of retrace their steps, so to speak.
Right. I will use people's deposition testimony, say, from 3 years or 4 years later. A lot of times it conflicts with several of the witnesses, so we need to make the best sense out of the information that we get.
That can't be easy. I mean, you're getting people to say, I think I recall this, I recall that, and it's not that people are trying to tell different stories, it's what they recollect at the time.
Right, their perception could be different, and in my situation, I need to accept all of their testimony as being the truth.
So are you looking at like the plaintiff scenario in these cases? I mean, are you looking at saying it's a he said, she said kind of scenario?
I could either be looking at the plaintiff's side, or I could be defending one of the defendants on the case.
So you're sometimes the bad guy. You're not necessarily the good guy, the bad guy. You're kind of caught in the middle in a lot of these.
I help the jury or the judge make a decision on what, I help the justice system by providing the truth. So
what are you actually trying to find on these situations? Are you finding out that, maybe the construction worker didn't do what he was supposed to do? It's unfortunate. I mean, let's look at it. Honestly, something happened that we don't really want to happen at the job site. We want everyone to be safe all the time. That's what we're looking at. But sometimes there are mistakes people made. Some things happen that a construction company or something occurred that we didn't want to occur. So what do you actually typically find? Are there things that they just didn't do right? The worker didn't do right, the construction company didn't do right, it's the equipment just didn't work right? I mean, is it a whole host of things?
Yeah, it is. A lot of the recurring themes are that people aren't reviewing the correct information. So we have the OSHA standards, but there's also manufacturer's standards. There's the operating instructions of a backhoe or of a bobcat. There's instructions on power tools, the material safety data sheets. So we really need to communicate what the manufacturers are saying about these products.
So does a lot of it have to do with really good training? Are we talking about if we really train our workers, we get them out there and they really know how to use the equipment, know what safety is all about? I mean, these are things that OSHA is saying. The more training, the better the site is going to be ultimately?
I agree with that. You can't have too much training, but I think the training has to go be more thorough than just what the OSHA standards say. I think we need to get involved in the actual materials and equipment that's being used.
Is there something you've seen in some of the investigations that you've looked at, you said, I really wish I didn't uncover that it's just kind of left a really kind of sad feeling in your gut?
Yeah, usually I see photographs, coroner reports, I see bodies that have been buried in a collapsed trench, people who have fallen off of 30 feet off of roofs or even higher. There's a lot of really gruesome injuries, and sometimes I wish I hadn't turned the page and looked at them.
You're the CSI of construction right now, right?
I've actually never seen that show.
So looking at this, when companies call you or, what's your first reaction? You're saying, look, I've got to get out there, I've got to do my job, and sometimes you don't feel comfortable doing that, right? I mean, you have a job to do.
Well, first I have to feel comfortable that I can help them. And if I can't help their side, then I won't take the case. So I won't get involved at all then. How
do you determine when you take a case? What's the underlying information?
I look at some of the basic facts, basically some photographs and the allegations of what went wrong. And then I'll do some basic research and look at the codes and standards and see if anything may have been violated in a way that caused this injury.
So ultimately, in the end, are you hoping to improve safety on the job site when you're done, that you've showing these construction companies this is the way you have to improve safety at the job site?
I would hope that through my work it would trickle down through the legal system back to the insurance companies and the contractors and hopefully provide for safer workplaces and safer workers.
Well, Greg, thank you for joining us on Safety Zone. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's our Safety Zone for today. The construction industry has always been about constructing the best home or building. But what if the construction company could build something even more? That's what native New Yorker Sandra Wilkin did when she began Bradford Construction Corporation back in 1989. Wilkin has evolved Bradford into a highly skilled workforce with services such as digital management, laser scanning, and BIM. Here to tell us all about it is Sandra Wilkin, CEO of Bradford Construction Corporation. Sandra, welcome to the show.
Well, nice to be here. Thank you.
So, Sandra, tell us a little bit about Bradford Construction and what you're doing there in New York City.
Well, here in New York City, Bradford Construction is construction managers. We primarily focus on having construction for large public projects, and in particular helping smaller businesses navigate through them.
And that's kind of an interesting thing when you think as a construction management company and what you're doing helping smaller construction firms. Exactly how are you doing that? Are you helping that with minority companies? Are you doing that helping women in construction? Are you helping them through technology? There's a host of things that you're doing today, correct?
Yes. So here in New York, when we have on public projects, we have great goals for minority and women-owned and small businesses. New York is really encouraging smaller contractors to have opportunities to work on construction projects. And coming from being a small business, I realize how difficult it is to first start getting through what it is to work on a construction project, no less working on large public projects.
When you and I first talked, you talked about you've been in business now for 27 years, so you've had to help quite a few companies and women contractors get involved. How have you done that? What have you encouraged them to be? Because as we've talked about, you know, this is traditionally a male-dominated industry, so being a New Yorker yourself, you've had to enjoy helping some of these small companies get off the ground.
Well, the companies here in New York are great, and we look to mentor them through various programs that New York has placed. And in particular, Peggy, where you are such an expert and focus on, is really about the technology now in terms of helping businesses.
Talk about that, technology. Technology has really changed a lot in construction because we always talk about we don't use it enough, but you've used a lot of different technology resources to help your company grow and other companies. What are some of those that you've been involved with?
Well, for instance, for sure, BIM. We look to BIM to help the small companies understand it. It's been a little longer road now that it's advanced. It's been helping small businesses. Laser scanning is another leveling the playing field for smaller business contractors.
Well, we talk about BIM. BIM in that collaborative approach has been great. Who would have thought you and I would be doing an interview by Skype, right? That's kind of an interesting way. But in that collaboration in general, isn't that exciting in itself?
Yes, we are now introducing, we look for the latest trends for small businesses to be able to adapt to, and looking at IoTs, for instance, seeing what is necessary that is not expensive and could advance the technology in the field or in their offices. We've learned about, and we're discussing a simple virtual reality, the cardboard box now that I can show you that we have for businesses now. You simply, as you know, put your cell phone in here and you can show your projects very easily by 3D. And it's not a lot of advanced technology that you need to do.
So did you ever think construction would be advancing to use simple things like VR and other technologies? I mean, did you ever imagine that years ago when you first started out in construction?
No, when we first talked about BIM, I remember people they said, is it software? Is it something you put in your coffee? They had no clue as to what BIM is. And now it's so much a staple in the building industry, and more firms, small businesses, are learning how to navigate through that.
Where do you see your company going as a CM now and into the future? Do you see yourself being a mentor to more companies with technology? Do you see yourself wanting to encourage more women? What do you see the future looking like? Driving more technology? Where do you see it going?
Well, Peggy, truly all of the above, because you need to always be learning, especially in the construction industry. Women now should be encouraged to come into both the building industry. Women, are great taskmasters, and there's opportunity here, especially in New York. We have both terrific goals in New York. They have 30% goals now. It's probably the largest, or one of the largest goals to procure opportunities on public projects. And now with that, it's important to grow the firm's capacity, which is something that we focus on, is to build capacity, not only for our firms, but also the firms that we're managing.
Well, Sandra, I loved hearing you talk about driving the future of construction forward. So thank you for spending so much time with us today.
Well, Peggy, keep doing what you're doing. It's an amazing program. Thank you.
All right, there you have it. There's someone you should know, Bradford Construction. We've discussed building information modeling, or BIM, several times, but this time we wanted to take that discussion even a little further. Here to chat with me is Pietro Ferreri, professor and program coordinator for the School of Architectural Studies at George Brown College. Pietro, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Exciting.
So Pietro, yeah, it's great. So let's talk a little bit. You and I have talked so many times about what's happening in the BIM space, and I think BIM is going through a lot of changes in construction. What's your take on that right now?
Well, I think BIM is definitely making a lot of changes in the industry. BIM has really, I like to say, we've entered the fourth industrial revolution, where BIM is actually going to completely transform and shift how we design, how we build, how we operate, everything from buildings to infrastructure. It has really changed the nature of the business, the conception of the business, and the application of the business of architecture, engineering, and construction. It's really an exciting time. The uncertainties of the future make it more so exciting, but it is definitely full steam ahead with BIM.
And when you say that, how are designers really taking part in this change in BIM right now? Or is their role really increasing in a different way?
Well, I know up until a few years ago, when I say a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was a certain hesitation with the majority of consultants to really, it's just like any other change, right? No, there's uncertainties, and of course the cost factor, the money-making factor was always front and center. I think now as consultants have seen the advantages and adapted to the methodologies, because it's a mind shift. It's a whole operational shift from top to bottom, or from bottom to top, depending on your organization. But designers, I see, are really becoming more aware of it and are really jumping now onto the bandwagon. I know from an educational standpoint, I have constant networking opportunities with industry, architectural engineering and construction here in Toronto. And up until a few years ago, as I said, there was a certain reluctance, and it's like, well, we don't know how we can make money from it yet. But obviously, they've seemed to have solved that problem, and they've really adapted to it significantly, and the larger construction companies are doing the same. The one big factor that I think will really put it over the top is once owners really begin to understand the benefits of BIM and its life cycle merits in the facility management, and how it ties into how we use the buildings and what our use of the buildings can feed in terms of data to them.
That's a really good point. So talk about that life cycle of the projects. How is that really making a difference when you talk about that?
Well, the theoretical concept, of course, was that there would be one big conglomerated, federated BIM model. Everybody put their pieces into it, and at the end, poof, there was this miraculous database that would basically do everything on its own. It's not quite that simple. The reality of it is that developing different BIMs and different models may or may not lead to a constructive facility management component or life cycle management. So if the data is accumulated and the models are prepared properly, the advantages to an owner are significant enough that, of course, will save them money and make their buildings much more efficient. There is the possibility of improved space management with a properly built facility management model. There is streamlined maintenance that could be extracted or taken advantage of. There's energy efficiency, of course. We see it in the modeling component at the design end or the consultant end, but of course, if a model for facility management is properly set up and administered, there could be significant benefits in terms of energy efficiency. Retrofits, of course, you always know what's there all the time. Real-time changes, real-time actualities are prepared and made evident. And if you're spending less time figuring out how to retrofit what's there, or better yet, what's there to retrofit, it's only going to save you time and money. And of course, the entire life cycle management and selection of materials, replacement materials, scheduling certain aspects, so you know when your building might need some retro or upgrades, or equipment might need to be adjusted ahead of time. Of course, trying to maintain something ahead of time always saves you money in the end. You can just look at vehicles, at cars. You know, you maintain your vehicle when you're supposed to. You don't blow your engine. But when the warning light goes on at the last minute, then you're in trouble. So it could be transferred in the same context to facility management and life cycle management. The reality is that our buildings are here, or hopefully are here, for decades, and it actually costs more to run the building and maintain the building and keep the building alive than it actually is to put the building together in the end.
So really what you're talking about is this new flow of data that we have is giving us this new insight into everything we want, from the beginning of our project all the way through that life cycle to the end. And that flow of information is changing what we see, how we react, how our projects are constructed in ways we never knew possible. Absolutely.
And the beauty is the data. The problem is also the data. With new technology, data is ubiquitous. It's everywhere all the time. There's models that will track real-time use of equipment, of corridors, of lighting components. Building automation is such a huge factor that will tie in to the management model as well. The data is that could possibly, if you don't know what to do with the data and how to stream the data and where to feed and extract information, it becomes management of the model is really a huge component, management of that data. So yes, data from day one. If the team sits down at the table from day one and decides what data A gets inserted into the model and B gets understood, when and how it needs to be extracted from the model, that's what makes the model efficient. There's
Pietro,
different types of.
We're out of time, but I want to thank you for joining me and all sharing this information. I hope you'll come back and talk with us again. Absolutely, I'd love to. All right, thank you. That's our innovation and technology for today. A building is only as solid as the nuts and bolts that hold each piece in place. That's why it's crucial that workers have the right tool with the right power to ensure things stay locked in place. Here to tell us all about the product that does just that is Brian Pecchia, Marketing Manager for Ingersoll Rand. Brian, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Brian, you have to tell us. Now, this new product, if I have the name right, is the Ingersoll Rand QX multiplier, right?
Correct.
All right, so now I've been lifting this thing up, and it is surely heavy. So if I want to get some muscle today, this is the product. So for anyone out there, you want to get some muscle, a little torque, this is it. Sure. So tell us, what does it do?
Sure. So this is our QX series cordless torque multiplier. It is a transducerized cordless tool used for fastening or bolting operations. The tool itself is typically used anywhere from construction sites to heavy machinery, bridge work, steel erection. Anytime you have a bolt that has a certain requirement for torque or for angle rotation, this tool can be used. It comes in different sizes. This is actually one of our smaller ones. It goes up to about 1,500 foot-pounds, down to about 30 foot-pounds. So the range is pretty large. The good thing about that is you can hit a lot of different applications. So that is what this tool is.
And if you're saying this is your smaller one, seriously,
yeah.
I'm just saying smaller one. I don't want to know what the heavier one is because it is definitely big. So you take this out. Typically, when you've described what you're doing, it's unique for what type of applications on the job site you just described. So you kind of say, we're taking that out and we're going to use it. What job sites specifically? Sure.
So if you're doing any type of bolting on a pipe flange, if you're constructing pipe flanges or any type of flange connections, each one of those bolts might have a torque requirement. And when they're used right now, typically is either running down the tool, say an impact, and then a manual click wrench, or they might use a pneumatic multiplier. Either way, you need to achieve a certain torque spec. This tool, you can program to what that spec is and then run it down on that bolt and achieve that.
Now, what you're saying, there's a lot more government regulations that require some of that we were talking about. So that gives you that. Now you're getting a lot more data, and that's what you were describing earlier. You and I were looking at this, and maybe our viewers can see a little bit. Walk us through some of these kind of numbers here that you have, and maybe they can see that when you kind of show some of that.
Yeah, so this is the back end of our tool. Here you can actually program different settings. You can then, say if you have 400 foot-pounds, the next joint is 800 foot-pounds. You can actually go to the back of the tool and then program it to 800 foot-pounds. Or newton meters, you can change it to newton meters if you have a different metric. On top of that, the LCD actually gives you feedback. So if the tool runs the bolt down, it doesn't achieve its desired torque range, it will actually turn red and let you know something went wrong with that joint. Maybe the bolt was stripped, maybe there was something in the thread.
That's not so good.
That's not good. So it's actually telling you something is wrong. And on the flip side, if you were to run the bolt down and it was stripped and it didn't rotate enough rotation, also turned red and said, hey, you hit the torque, but you didn't finish the operation. So it can actually tell you if the health of the joint, which I think in terms of error proofing is a feature in here that would help make the operator feel more comfortable when they're running the tool down. So it'll turn red, it'll turn green if you hit, if you actually hit the torque range, it will turn green, let you know you can go on to the next joint. On top of that, you can change speed, you can change a few other features on here, which you might not need to, but you have that option. If you needed more options than the tool, the back end of the tool can give you, can actually plug it into our computer, and we have a software you can actually go into the tool and have a lot more programming options.
So you've just brought this out now, and the data that we're talking about is on the job site, we're getting a lot more information you just described, and that's key. And we've talked about how much we need this information at the job site, and we're talking about saving money ultimately. Is that what we're getting to?
It's saving money and convenience. Right now, a lot of times operators are writing down manually what that torque they achieved or what bolt they hit. It becomes very cumbersome. So now when you have the tool, it can actually store that data on this tool. It's streamlining your process. As you mentioned, government regulations or companies require quality requirements, they're getting a lot more stringent and very much more controlled on what their specifications are, and this tool allows you to be able to achieve those requirements.
So looking at this versus other products, how does this product compare to what's out there right now?
Sure. So right now you'll see a lot of different types of products that are used. The benefit of this tool, being it's cordless, you don't need an air compressor. You don't need a hydraulic power pack. You can go into different, you're not going to have the cumbersome of the hoses, so you can go into different hard to reach spots. On top of that, you have the different torque ranges, so you don't need to bring as many tools with you anymore. Say if you had a pneumatic multiplier that had a certain range, and this tool has a larger range, you can just bring one tool versus having to bring two tools. Even more beneficial is that we actually use the same battery platform as our other cordless tools as well. So now you only need to bring one or two batteries versus a lot of different type of batteries. So if you have a cordless Ingersoll Rand Impact, it uses the same battery as the torque multiplier does.
Now you know what everyone's thinking right now. What does this baby cost? Because you know that's what everyone's mind is. They're looking at this.
So obviously the price varies based on the size. We also have different configurations, so we have an angle tool as well, not just a pistol style. But I can tell you that the price is aligned very competitively where other products like this or in this space typically are. So anyone who uses any type of manual click wrenches or pneumatic multipliers has an idea of what that price range is, depending on obviously the different sizes and whatnot. The price will vary, but it's aligned perfectly with that market.
So it's available now. Where can you go and get this product right now?
Very good question. So if you ever want any more information, you want a demo, or if you want to actually purchase, you can go to IngersollRandProducts.com and search for your local distributor or your local sales individual. Both our distribution and our sales team are well versed in this tool. They can bring out to show you a demo. They can actually run one on one of the joints, make you feel comfortable with the product since it's a newer technology. And you can ask them for more information. Again, it's IngersollRandProducts.com.
And are they helping you there, your distributors, if you wanted something like this, and actually how to really use it so you're comfortable with this product there?
Absolutely. And we understand that new technology like this, not as many people are familiar with, so we're a big advocate of demoing the tool, showing the tool on a specific joint, fitting the tool to what we believe their application would see fit. For example, if we needed a different reaction arm or this piece here, we can actually look at making a custom reaction arm to fit that application. So the idea is, again, we want to make everything easy for the customer. We're streamlining the process, but we also want to make sure when they use the tool or the first time they see the tool that they feel comfortable with it before they purchase.
So what I'm saying is if you want a tool not only to get the job done, but you want to get fit at the same time, this is the tool, right, Brian? We've just said we've got it. So there you go. Brian, thank you.
Appreciate it.
That's it. This is your tool, not only to get healthier and to get the job done for a Got It tool. So that's your Got It tool for today. From the sky to the stadium. Today I'm going to pick the top 5 projects. First up, the Hearst Tower, located in New York City. This 46-story structure was originally built in 1928, but recently Hearst did a major renovation to improve energy efficiency. The challenge for the construction team was combining the old and the new. Naturally, BIM was used, but so was Turner Logistics. This incorporates technical and commercial aspects of procurement, and it controls costs and even reduces change orders. It also helped on the Hearst project. So let's talk about some of the features. Today, the structure has conductive limestone flooring that covers the lower atrium. Tubing in the wall actually maintains water circulation for cooling. Light sensors control artificial light needed throughout the day. One of the first skyscrapers to receive LEED Gold certification quickly upgraded to the Platinum rating for existing buildings. This building actually epitomizes the modern workplace for today. Every building wants the crown to be the greenest in the world. This next one has the stats to back it up. The Bullitt Center is owned by the Bullitt Foundation, a 60-year-old Seattle philanthropy. Its mission is to safeguard the environment. What makes this so special is the facility has rainwater collection, waste compost, a natural ventilation, and 100% renewable energy on site. If standing the test of time has meaning, this building's unique claims to fame include a heavy timber, concrete, and steel structure that should stand for 250 years. A 50-year high-performance skin, and a 25-year active solar control. The building's control system monitors HVAC, wastewater, air supply, and sub pumps. It also collects data from the weather station and indoor sensors, thermal energy, and window operations. A secondary system collects energy data, including tracking energy performance. What made this project so successful? Good preparation, leadership, communication, and an integrated design process. This involved disciplinary collaboration from concept to completion, and it marries architectural and mechanical elements all together. But most importantly, it meets the mission to safeguard the environment. Let's head to San Jose, California. Silicon Valley is bound to have some high-tech buildings. The Samsung headquarters has a 10-story tower, amenity pavilion, and a parking garage. It hosts 2,000 employees divided into two sections, R&D and sales. It has a white, metal, glass, and terracotta exterior. A courtyard connects the entire building, creating a central gathering place. The entire building's design encourages interaction among staff. It attracts employees in the tech market. The energy-efficient design minimizes solar heat gain, which reduces costs. In order to accomplish this, the team leveraged BIM, design assist, and prefabrication. The result is a high-tech headquarters fit for Silicon Valley. Our fourth project is only a short drive away, Apple Park in Cupertino, California. This 175-acre campus was originally a vision in Steve Jobs' mind. Today, it is a center for creativity. The 2.8 million square foot main building has panels of curved glass and 17 megawatts of rooftop solar. A naturally ventilated building, it is projected to require no heating or air conditioning for 9 months of the year. The campus also has a visitor center and includes an Apple store and cafe and a 100,000 square foot fitness center and secure research and development facilities. The park also includes a theater to be named after the founder himself. It boasts a 1,000-seat auditorium and a 20-foot-tall glass cylinder. All in all, the massive building is situated on a hill overlooking meadows and the main Apple building. Foster and Partners used BIM on the project. DPR Construction and Skanska were responsible for the shell and the core, while Arup served as the engineers. And Jobs himself spent 3 years on the project team before his death. So you might say this was one of the last great inventions of Mr. Jobs. Our final project is the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, soon to be the home of the Atlanta Falcons, and it will cost $1.5 billion. It also features a retractable roof and a 360-degree HD Halo video board. The roof was naturally a challenge for the engineers. The project has more than 20,000 tons of steel and more than 1,500 RFIs. A project like this is no easy feat. It required multiple reference models from different trades, and it did experience some delays. But come this fall, it will be one of the most high-tech stadiums in all of football. So there you have it, my top 5 picks: Hearst Tower, Bullitt Center, Samsung headquarters, Apple Park, and the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So do you have a project that you want us to share? Email us at info@constructtech.tv. It just might make it on the air. So that's our top picks for today. Today's word of the day is cloud. There's a lot of ambiguity and even fluffiness surrounding this word. Marketing directors like to throw it around a lot. Now, the National Institute of Standards and Technology has a somewhat complicated definition that I think you can go to their website at nist.gov to check it out. But simply for the construction industry, what we like to say, it's an on-demand network to a shared pool of resources. Now, I think it's important to have a framework for what the cloud is and does, especially if you're working in the IT in this industry. So one of the characteristics that NIST mentions is a broad network access. And this actually refers to capabilities that are available via the network. So think mobile, phones, tablets, laptops, workstations, anything like that. But when you hear many conversations, this is typically what, as contractors, you're noting when you mention that word, the cloud, right? But now another piece that is important to kind of break out is the service models. Now, software as a service uses applications on the cloud infrastructure, and this includes apps that could be email or customer relationship management, cloud storage, anything like that. Then there's platform as a service, and this deploys applications in the cloud using programming languages, and this includes websites and web applications. We also have infrastructure as a service, and this provides, as a user, the provisioning with processing and computing resources. Now we're talking about virtual machines in the cloud that are made available to, as a customer, who maintains the operating system all the way on up. Now it's important to keep in mind there are also different deployment models. Now we're getting kind of confusing, right? But when you're looking at the cloud, this includes a private community, a public, and even hybrid kind of operation. So there you have it, a definition for one of the most ambiguous words out there, cloud. That's your word of the day. And thanks for watching Construct Tech TV, where we are talking tech at the job site.